What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the numbers. These are my Draftkings MMA picks for UFC St. Louis. We have Derek Lewis going against Rodrigo Nascimento in what should be another really fun card. We are in front of some fans here for a fight night card, which is always nice to see. We have 13 fights to work with. And yeah, this is a card where I think there's going to be a lot of really fun fights. Fights that we're going to need to target. There's some fights that are heavily favored to end inside the distance. So yeah, I can't wait to break it all down. As always, before we get into, if you guys could like the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Be sure to check out Prize Picks and use promo code DFSBTN for a 100% deposit match up to $100. And then I'll touch on my favorite Prize Picks play of the week mid of the video. And then lastly, if you guys want more content, the content that you do not see on YouTube, go to dfsbythenumbers.com. Check out the DFS package there. You'll find all my stats you see on the Friday, Saturday shows, targets, projections, rankings, ownership projections, Prize Picks article and the entry, Draftkings article, and just much, much more. So check it out at dfsbythenumbers.com. With all that out of the way, I say we get into it here, and we're going to start with, these fight doesn't go to decision lines here. So the first one up top, we got a big one, Derek Lewis going against Rodrigo Nascimento. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 1,400. Derek Lewis is sitting at 8,400, and Nascimento sitting at 8,000 or 7,800. So yeah, this is a main event that I think you're going to have to probably get exposure to. I mean, I could see a scenario where, you know, it's a very low volume type fight, and Derek Lewis maybe gets a second round knockout or a third round knockout at that point. Maybe he doesn't pay off this price tag, but you know, even then, it's hard to get away from Derek Lewis this week, or at least for me personally, at 8,400. Typically I like, betting Derek Lewis and, having Derek Lewis as a dog, but this is a fight where I just feel like he's a lot better than Nascimento. It's a massive step down in competition from Derek Lewis, and if he loses to Nascimento, it'll probably be his worst loss in just a very, 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 very long time. So this is Derek Lewis for me. But we'll talk about Nascimento. Like, Nascimento has some paths. He's higher volume. He's a BJJ black belt. But I just feel like Derek Lewis should go out there and knock this guy out. So I'm more so going to be on the Derek Lewis side at 8,400. But overall, I think it's a solid main event to target. Next, we have Despain going against Cortez Acosta. Minus 800 for the fight, doesn't go to decision. And yeah, I mean, if you add up Despain's entire career, you get about like 5 minutes. This is a fight that I think not only finishes inside the distance, but probably finishes under 1.5 rounds and probably finishes in the first round. And with Despain, you're looking at a guy where I said it last time, which it was no hot take, but I was like, this dude literally has 60-second win upside. Against Josh Parisian, he went out there and knocked him out in like 20-30 seconds. Waldo Cortez Acosta is a lot better than Josh Parisian, but still, I mean, if this guy hits you, you're going out. So I think another 60-second finish bonus could very well be in play for Despain, but at the very least, I think if he is winning this fight, it is going to be in the first round. So yeah, I like Despain quite a bit at 9,000. On the flip side, you got Waldo, who is the more proven fighter. He's fought the much, much better competition. He's shown that he can go into the second and third round. So if Waldo's able to survive those first 5 minutes, maybe he can take over and get a decent score in his own right, but I think the majority of upside is on that Despain side. Then we have a Ribovics going against McKinney, also minus 800 for the fight, doesn't go to decision, and this is a Terrence McKinney fight, which means it absolutely must be targeted on both sides. With Esteban Ribovics, you have a really good finisher in his own right. I think he's won 11 out of his 12 wins inside the distance. You have Terrence McKinney, has a 100% finish rate both in his wins and in his losses. McKinney's been to the third round only once in his career, and I don't really think that changes here at these two. I think these two are going to stand and bang until one man falls. McKinney has the grappling upside if he wants to take that route, but doesn't really have the cardio to push that pace. So yeah, I think somebody's getting served here. McKinney at 7,300, makes a ton of sense for a live dog who has first round finish upside. But Esteban Ribovics as well. I think if Ribovics is winning, he's probably winning this fight second round, maybe even first round. So yeah, I think somebody's getting served here, and this is a fight I'll be heavily, heavily exposed to, including the next one. Slava Borshev going against Chase Hooper. The fight doesn't go is minus 325. And we have Slava Claus at 8,500 and Hooper at 7,700. Whoever wins this fight, I think, scores a ton. It's either going to be, I think there's only two outcomes here. The first outcome is Slava beating the brakes off of Chase Hooper on the feet, maybe dropping him a couple times and knocking him out. I think that is a very, very live outcome. The other outcome is Chase Hooper is able to get the takedowns, and if he's able to get the takedowns, he's going to serve Borshev on the mat. So I feel like whoever wins this fight is going to look like a massive favorite, is going to put up a massive score, and for that reason, I will be targeting both sides. They don't have a strong lean one way or another, so I'm probably going to be pretty evenly split, but it's a fight I'm going to have a ton of exposure to nonetheless. Getting into the core plays here, we got Mateus Rebecki here, 9,400. And I think he's getting Carlos Diego Ferreira here at the right time. Diego Ferreira is 39 years old at this point. He is 1-3 in his last 4 fights. I think this fight for both of them is kind of short notice, which I don't really like that for Ferreira as well. And yeah, I feel like this is a spot where Rebecki can really win the fight wherever it goes. But mostly on the feet, I think. I think he can, push a pace here, land a lot of volume, land a lot of power, and I think he can eventually get Diego Ferreira out of there at some point in this fight. 9,400. There's not a lot of safe picks on the card, and even like Rebecki's not the safest pick in the world, but he's probably the guy I feel, most confident about in terms of winning the fight. Derek Lewis is 8,400. I feel like there's some value here. I mean, this is going to be Derek Lewis's easiest fight in a very long time. Nascimento, he has some things that may give Lewis some problems. Maybe he can take down Lewis, get on top, but even then, we've seen guys get on top of Derek Lewis, and Derek Lewis survive, get back up, and once the fight's on the feet, he has a ton of power. So I think Derek Lewis gets the win by knockout. I'm hoping it's early first round especially would be nice, but even second round, get a knockdown in there. I think at 8,400, Lewis makes a lot of sense. Slava Borshev, 8,500. Like I said, not a ton of conviction on the side, but the conviction is I'm going to be playing just a ton of this fight, going to try to get as close to 100% ownership between these two as possible, because I just don't see in what world where this fight doesn't score a ton for the winner. I'm picking Borshev to win the fight. I think he's going to knock out Chase Hooper. The takedown defense is very worrisome, though. But yeah, if he's able to stuff some of these takedowns, if he gets taken down, get back up. Once this fight's on the feet, it's one-way traffic. So I like Slava here, 8,500, going to have a ton of them and a ton of this fight. Rebelis Despain, a guy we talked about as well, 9,000, a guy with first-round upside, a guy with 60-second upside. I mean, this is a guy in Rebelis who has, I think, 4 of his 5 wins have come under 60 seconds. He has had one win that came like later into like the first round, but when he's winning fights, he's not only winning them inside the distance, he's not only winning them in the first round, he's winning them like in the first 60 seconds. So I love that 60-second upside, that first round upside. He's 6'7" with an 87-inch reach. He has a ton of power. Waldo's not going to try to take him down. I think Rebelis is very live for a first round KO here at 9,000. Getting into the GPP plays, we got Esteban Rubiks, 8,900. Terrence McKinney has lost 6 times, and he's lost 6 times inside the distance. McKinney has not won a fight that's went over 0.5 rounds in the very first round. So if Rubiks is able to survive those first 2.5 minutes, the odds of him winning skyrocket. And, he's a tough guy. He's never been finished. Obviously, Terrence McKinney is going to go out there and try to take his head off, try to sub him. But if not, Rubiks is a guy that can definitely take over late first, second round and finish McKinney in his own right. 8,900. I like it. Joaquin Buckley, 8,700. So, yeah, another fight we should be targeting here. Ruziboev has had 2 fights thus far in the UFC. Both of them have finished in the very first round. And this is one that I think finishes as well. I'm not sure as of when. Like, if Buckley's winning this fight, I'm kind of thinking it's round 2, round 3. And if Nursultan's winning this fight, we'll talk about him. I think it's round 1. He's a ton of first-round finishes. But we just don't know much about Ruziboev at this point. Ruziboev, he has like over 40 fights. The majority of those wins coming inside the distance. The majority of those wins coming in the first round. So what is Ruziboev going to look like if this fight reaches the second round? If it does reach the second round, I think it does favor Buckley. And Buckley has some good knockout power in his own right. So I think Buckley's live for a second or third round finish as long as his head stays intact before that first round ends. And then Trey Waters, 8,800, another fight that I really like. There's some really good fights to target on this card, and this is one of them. Trey Waters, Billy Goff is going to be an absolute banger. These guys are going to stand and bend to one-man falls with Trey Waters. You have the bigger guy with a 7-inch height advantage, like a 5.5-inch reach advantage as well. Trey Waters has good volume, good power, and Billy Goff's very hittable. I've seen him hurt before. Billy Goff's very tough, but yeah, he's been dropped a lot. And Trey Waters, if he's winning this fight, I think he's hurting Billy. I think he's probably knocking him out, to be honest. Yeah, Waters, 8,800, very much in play. But we'll talk about Billy as well, who's absolutely a live dog. And then Carlos Ulberg, 9,300, another guy up there in the top range that I don't mind. I like the volume of Ulberg. I like the power of Ulberg. A little bit too expensive for my liking. Like, there's guys I like more. Like, I like Rebellis more, who's cheaper. Rubix, who's cheaper. Waters, who's cheaper. Even Buckley, who's cheaper. And then I like Rebexy, who's a little bit more expensive. But Ulberg's another guy that I think can go out there and put up a solid score and a win. Moving on to the live dogs, we have a ton of them this week. These are my favorites, the ones with the most upside, and it is under Sultan Ruzabow of 7,500. If Ruzabow is winning this fight, it's probably in the first round. You know, this is a guy in Ruzabow who has over 20-something wins in the first round. He has power in his hands. He has a submission game. I think he's very live to win this fight, but I think it has to be early, which is fine. You know, if he's winning the fight at 7,500 in the first round, he's going to score very well and absolutely pay off this price tag. So I don't mind some Sultan at 7,500. Rodrigo Nascimento, 7,800. I don't know how much I'm going to have of Nascimento yet, but you know, it is a heavyweight fight. He does have some paths. You know, he's a black belt. You know, if he gets the fight down to the mat, maybe he can get a sub against Lewis, which is hard to do. But yeah, 5 rounds to work with here for Nascimento. Doesn't have the most power, but Lewis has been finished a ton. But yeah, I like Lewis here, but there are some paths for Nascimento in the main event. We got Billy Goff, 7,400. I like Billy Goff's style quite a bit, and I like this price tag for Billy Goff. This is the guy in Billy Goff who has a ton of power. I think if he's winning this fight, it is going to be by knockout. He's going to pressure. He's going to try to close the distance. He's going to try to land a big shot. He might even try to take you down, so some takedown upside as well. And I just think this is going to be a dog fight. I think these guys are going to get after it. I think the winner scores very well, and Billy Goff at 7,400 makes a lot of sense as a dog. Chase Hooper, 7,700. Yeah, I mean, Hooper has a path to victory here as well. Absolutely has a path to victory. He's going against Slava, who's a much better striker, but Hooper is just much better on the ground. Slava has probably the first or second worst takedown defense in the division, up there with like Damir Hadzovic. Might even be worse than Damir Hadzovic at this point. I think it's like 30-something% for Borshev. So although Hooper isn't the best wrestler, maybe Borshev's take not even so bad that Hooper will be able to get this guy down. And if he gets on top of Borshev, I think it's his world. And yeah, 7,700. Hooper's absolutely a live dog. I think this fight can go either way, and I think Hooper in a win scores incredibly. Moving on to the Prize Picks play of the week, I'm going with the Jake Hadley more than 45.5 significant strikes there. I think it's going to be a high-volume paced fight between him and Charles Johnson. I think it's going to be back and forth. I think it's primarily played out on the feet, and I think we could see a situation like the Hadley-Candelario fight where Hadley went out there and landed like 90 strikes within the first round and a half. So I think it's going to be a high-volume affair, and I like the Jake Hadley more than 45.5 significant strikes. Moving on. We got Pump Plays. We got Terrence McKinney, 7,300. Anytime Terrence McKinney's fighting, he's getting some exposure from me. I mean, this is a guy whose ceiling is a round 1 knockout. Or submission. He can wrestle. If he wants to, he can wrestle, but he's going to have to get the submission early. Like I said earlier, he's not won a fight that has went past the half-round mark of the first round. So if McKinney's winning, it's in the first round. Also, another guy with 60-second upside, like we've seen him do it before. So yeah, Terrence McKinney is always in play, no matter who he's fighting. 7,300, I'll be sprinkling him for sure. And then Alonzo Menefield, 6,900. I feel like this line's a little bit wide. These salaries are a little bit off. I feel like this fight's a little bit closer than these salaries do indicate. And Menefield has some paths here. First off, Menefield hits like an absolute truck. Carlos Ulberg's been knocked out before by Kennedy Nzechukwu. And then Menefield even has maybe some wrestling upside here as well. So I think there's some paths here for Menefield, and he's super cheap at 6,900. I don't mind sprinkling him as well. Fade is Sean Woodson, 9,100. I'm fading the entire Sean Woodson-Caceres fight. I think it's going to be a fun fight, but, no takedowns either way. I don't think there's a finish either way. I think it's even maybe a little bit lower volume than expected as well, so I think I'm fine with fading Sean Woodson. I think there's many better options this week. So there you have it. Thank you all so much for watching. If you guys could, like on your way out, subscribe to the channel, check out Prize Picks, use promo code DFSBTN, get a 100% deposit match up to $100, and then check out dfsbythenumbers.com. That's where you'll find all my other content. I'll be getting out my Draftkings article either tonight or tomorrow, and then I'll be getting out my Prize Picks article tonight or tomorrow as well. And then most of the content's already out and ready to go for this week for St. Louis. So yeah, guys, best of luck for UFC St. Louis, and we'll talk to you guys soon. See you later.